This is my new test system. Initially it was supposed to have something new, something old, something borrowed, something defective, and a good dose of cringe. I managed to avoid the borrowed part and dial down the cringe, but just by a bit. Running the games at low settings is not the best way to test GPUs, but I do like to use the same settings that somebody who actually plays those games would use. This, however, leads to the Z230 workstation limiting the performance of even some of the weaker cards, like the R7-260. The solution to this is a new test system that will allow these old cards to stretch their legs. And while in theory one can choose between an Intel platform and an AMD one, the prices on the used parts market in my side of the world made that choice simple. I'll prolong the suspense a bit and start with one of the new components, the case. I went for the Dark Flash B351. Now, the name might not tell you much, but the reason I bought it is going to be quite obvious, especially when compared with the Z230 workstation. Yep, what do you do when you have the opportunity to build a cool looking gaming PC? You build one that looks just like your old workstation, of course. Joking aside, the case has enough room to accommodate video cards up to 340mm, and I can easily mount my 2 data drives in it. As for the front panel, those slots are not just decorations, they actually allow quite a bit of airflow through them, much like the case of the Z230. Lastly, the best part about this dexterous case is the side panel. Made out of tempered metal, it will successfully hide the rainbow vomit that any of the fans might come with. For the CPU, I opted for a used Ryzen 5 3600. I know, should have taken the 3600X or 5600X, but the relative price increase for these parts does not translate into similar performance gains. At 45 USD and sometimes less than that, the 3600 with its 6 cores, 12 threads provides the best bang for the buck, and its 65 watts TDP means that pretty much any motherboard and cooler will do a good job of delivering power and keeping it cool respectively. I got the Gigabyte A310-3M-H for only $7. As you can probably tell from the price, this motherboard is from the something defective share of components. As expected, the board is plain as it can be with just 2 DIMM slots and a 4+2 phase power delivery. You do get your usual 2 USB 2.0 and 1 USB 3.0 connectors, a TPM header that can be used to connect either a TPM module or a postcode analyzer, and an M.2 slot for an NVMe drive. The board came without the cooler backplate and the plastic hooks, so I ordered the set from AliExpress. This way I didn't have to use the good enough for Eastern Euro backplate and to borrow some hooks from a previous build. It's worth pointing out, however, that the BIOS does offer some control over the CPU voltage and frequency, so undervolting is definitely possible here. When ordering the backplate, I did also order a tower cooler, equipped with a 90mm fan and 4 direct touch... not sure how I feel about that, so 4 direct touched heat pipes. For our AM4 board, we simply need to latch it onto the hooks by pressing down on what the manual calls the cooler buckle. And if both this logo and the verbiage seem familiar, it's because you have seen both a little bit earlier. Yeah, this pretty much explains it. For the system memory, I kind of opted for 32GB of DDR4 at 3000 MHz CL16. Obviously used parts and obviously mismatched, the pair did however manage to load the XMP profile from the Corsair stick. You see, I was aiming for a 16GB dual channel kit, but the prices on my local market suddenly went up. So I got the Lone Patriot Viper stick and kept an eye for another RAM module that met the following criteria. Same working voltage, same frequency, and same cast latency. I then searched to see if the subtimings of each candidate would be close to what I found about the Viper. And when the Corsair Vengeance stick showed up, at the same price as the Viper, I went on and bought it. In the storage department, while keeping the old data drives makes sense, I opted for a cheap NVMe drive for the OS. The old SSD will stay with the Z230, as it would make little sense to carry it over. The operating system would need to be reinstalled, and a different motherboard would mean that the Windows copy would be unactivated anyway. Nothing special with the silicon power drive. 256GB of storage served via 4 PCIe 3.0 lanes. But it matches the capabilities of the motherboard, and it is one of the new components. The last new component of the build is the fan. For now, I opted to use a single 120mm exhaust fan. Together with a PSU fan, this then makes this PC a negative pressure setup. Again, much like the Z230. Once I manage to make a fan hub, I'll add similar fans for the intake. I did try to get a defective 750 watts PSU for this build, but unfortunately the deal didn't go through. Apparently 10 USD gets you the box alone, and one needs to shell out an extra 10 USD for the cables. So the PSU is the same generic 650 watts unit that I plopped in the old workstation. It has the appropriate EPS and PCIe power connectors, so no worries there. Up until this point I did not mention a video card. This is a test system, so I will be rotating each and every card that I own. However, for the sake of this video, I decided to use yet another bought as defective part, the RX 580 from XFX. You already know the story of this card, and with its single 8-pin power connector, it should run just fine, making this PC, at least for now, an all AMD machine. So, something old, something new, something defective, and a healthy dose of cringe. And despite the platform no longer being current gen, there is quite a bit of an upgrade path, but that's for the future. For now, I'd like to thank you for watching this video. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you for the next one.